Names and some details have been changed to protect privacy. This story is based on real events. On the eve of her disappearance, the Mitchell family was preparing for a new beginning. They were getting ready to move into a new apartment. I was always scolding her for leaving the door unlocked, her mother would later recall. For the past 8 years, Laura Mitchell had been working as an insurance agent at a large used car dealership. She never complained about her job and didn't appear to have financial problems. Riverton, night, an ordinary apartment building on Cherrywood Street. On October 14th, 2018, surveillance cameras captured footage that would later be replayed again and again by detectives, relatives, online investigators, and complete strangers. Everyone was searching for an answer to one simple question. Where did this woman go? At 3:57 a.m., Laura Mitchell approaches the entrance of her building. She appears nervous. She bites her lower lip, looks around, opens a door, and steps inside. That's it. After this moment, Laura Mitchell was never seen again. It was as if she vanished into thin air, crossing the threshold of her own home. But let's start from the beginning. Laura Mitchell was 34 years old. She was born in 1984 and had lived in Riverton her entire life. An attractive woman with an open, trusting gaze, she lived a quiet life, though often a difficult one. Laura was raising her 12-year-old son, Daniel, on her own. 2 years earlier, in 2016, she had divorced her husband, Michael. The reasons for the separation remained private. Neither relatives nor friends knew the details. There were no scandals, no hatred, no public conflict. It was a calm divorce, and afterward Laura and Michael maintained a normal relationship. She could call him for advice, ask for help, and talk about their son. Daniel regularly spent time with his father, with no restrictions and no tension. Laura lived in a ground-floor apartment with her son and her mother, Margaret. Her mother spent most of her time caring for Daniel, picking him up from school, cooking meals, and helping with homework. Laura worked long hours. Her job was a small office located on a car lot that sold used vehicles. Officially, she was an insurance agent, but in reality, she handled entire transactions, loans, insurance, inspections, and registrations. Her income depended on how many deals she closed. Colleagues described her as responsible, calm, and always willing to help. Outside of work, Laura looked for extra income. She baked homemade wafer rolls and sold them online under the name Taste of Childhood. She also enjoyed embroidery. These activities were more of a passion than a real source of money. As for her personal life, 2 years after the divorce, a new man appeared. Very little is known about him, and what is known is contradictory. Laura's mother believed he was not the right man for her daughter. Some friends agreed, while others said he seemed ordinary. No obvious red flags. Still, Laura didn't rush to move in with him and wasn't planning marriage. But she did want to change her living situation. According to her family, Laura and her mother planned to live separately. A new apartment had already been purchased, and one detail stands out. Shortly before her disappearance, Laura took out a loan of approximately $8,000, and then she vanished. The loan was meant for furnishing the new apartment. On Saturday, October 13th, 2018, Laura's mother, Margaret, spent the night in the new place for the first time. She was preparing for the housewarming they had planned for the next day. Laura stayed home with her son. For the first time in a long while, it was just the two of them, without the grandmother. Nothing unusual seemed to happen that day. Laura took care of household chores and spent time talking with her son. Later, Daniel would recall only one disturbing detail. In the days leading up to her disappearance, his mother cried often. That evening, Laura put her son to bed. What she did afterward remains unknown. Perhaps she was on her phone, perhaps texting or calling someone. Or perhaps she simply couldn't sleep. Around 2 in the morning, Laura went to her ex-husband's place. Michael was surprised. She hadn't called ahead. She simply showed up at his door. Laura asked to borrow money, but he didn't have the amount she needed. This strange detail would surface later, when relatives began calling everyone Laura knew, desperately trying to understand where she could be. Her mother was shocked when she found out. After all, Laura had just taken out a loan of around $8,000. About $6,000 had already been spent. That meant roughly $2,000 should still have been left. So where did the money go? What did Laura spend it on? Or who did she give it to? Why did she need more money? And why in the middle of the night? These questions remain unanswered, and that alone is unsettling. But let's return to the night of her disappearance. Sometime between 2 in the morning and 3:30, something else appears to have happened, because Laura's phone history was completely erased. All call logs, all text messages, everything dating back to October 6th, no calls, no messages. Even messaging apps were wiped clean. Everything deleted. Whether Laura did this herself, or whether someone else gained access to her phone, is still unknown. What matters is this. When investigators finally examined the phone, there was nothing on it that could explain the events of that night. Laura's phone was later found in her apartment. It was lying quietly in the hallway, plugged into a charger. At 3:36 a.m., a car drives past the building, captured by a surveillance camera. 1 minute later, 2 young women approach the entrance. They stop outside but don't go in right away, likely finishing a cigarette. The camera can't see them clearly. They're just outside its range. A few minutes later, they appear again. One of the women takes out a magnetic key and opens the door herself. Both enter the building. Then, just 2 minutes later, Laura suddenly runs out of the same entrance. She's wearing a light jacket, clearly not dressed for a long walk through the cold October night. She doesn't look around. She doesn't search for anyone. She knows exactly where she's going. Laura turns left, moving toward the far end of the building. Beyond that, the tram tracks. And after that moment, Laura Mitchell disappears. At 3:50 a.m., another car passes by the building. Whether it's the same vehicle seen earlier or a different one is impossible to determine. What is clear is this. Laura was gone for 12 minutes. At 3:57 a.m., she returns. The camera captures her silhouette, first as a reflection in a parked car, then her figure slowly approaching the entrance. This moment deserves special attention, because these few seconds of footage are the only thing that give us any insight into Laura's state of mind during the final moments before she vanished. She's walking slower now. The urgency from earlier is gone. Her movements are calm, controlled. It's hard to tell what emotion is on her face. To this day, viewers argue about it in the comments. Some believe she looks frightened, tense, on edge. Others insist the opposite, that her face appears relaxed, as if she's even slightly satisfied. Laura doesn't look around in panic. She doesn't glance over her shoulder. She calmly approaches the intercom. She bites her lower lip. Then she looks back one last time, toward the direction she came from. What was that? Nervousness? Anticipation? Fear? Laura opens the door and steps inside. The door closes behind her. The clock reads 3:57 a.m. Laura Mitchell is never seen again. Sunday morning, October 14th. Around 10 a.m., Laura's mother, Margaret, calls her from the new apartment. She's excited, happy. The kitchen turned out beautiful, she wants to say. Come see it. Laura doesn't answer. Margaret calls again. And again, silence. Something feels wrong. Maybe it's a mother's intuition. Maybe it's simply knowing her daughter's habits. Laura was always reachable. She always called back. Margaret gets dressed and goes to Laura's apartment. Inside, she finds her grandson, frightened. Daniel had woken up to an empty home. His mother was gone. His grandmother wasn't there either. He was alone. Laura's phone was lying on a small table in the hallway, plugged into a charger. On the screen, missed calls from her mother. Margaret begins calling everyone. Friends, relatives, acquaintances. No one knows anything. No one has seen Laura since Saturday evening. A call to her former son-in-law finally reveals something. Laura had come to his place in the middle of the night, around 2 a.m. She asked for money. But what happened after that remains a mystery. By Sunday evening, the family files a missing person report. Law enforcement responds quickly. But even with cameras, witnesses, and timelines, Laura Mitchell seems to have vanished without a trace. That a volunteer search and rescue team is brought in. The first step is obvious: surveillance footage. And almost immediately, investigators notice several disturbing irregularities. The first one involves the two young women who entered the building just minutes before Laura ran out. Who were they? Residents of the building? They opened the door using a magnetic key. But when police showed the footage to tenants, no one recognized them. That alone isn't shocking. In large apartment complexes, few people know all their neighbors by face. They could have been renting an apartment or visiting someone. When investigators reviewed additional footage, they discovered that the two women left the building the next day, around noon. Their identities were checked. The results were never made public. But judging by what followed, authorities appear to have ruled out their involvement, and the women were never mentioned again. Then comes the second anomaly. Everything we've seen so far took place near entrance 6. But what about entrance 7? That's the direction Laura ran. Was there a camera there? Yes, there was. But it recorded nothing, only a black screen. The company responsible for the cameras insisted the system was working properly. They claimed it was simply too dark and the night mode failed. Local residents, however, told a different story. Some believed the camera lens had been deliberately covered with paint or marker. By the time anyone tried to verify this, it was already impossible. One thing is clear. There is no additional footage of Laura from that night. So where was she running? To whom? And why? The third unsettling detail involves Laura's phone. Every call, every message, completely deleted. Starting from October 6th, police requested records from the mobile carrier, but it didn't help much. The data showed only basic call activity, not conversations in messaging apps. The investigation moved in every possible direction. The apartment building was searched thoroughly. Basements, attics, all doors were locked. No signs of forced entry. Search dogs were brought in. They found nothing. The search area expanded. Nearby were abandoned construction sites, garages, open fields, a park, and a dried-up lake bed. Volunteers searched everywhere. Flyers with Laura's photo appeared on walls, doors, and street poles across the neighborhood. Neighbors were questioned. No one had seen or heard anything unusual. They described Laura as kind, friendly, often seen walking with her son. So, what happened to her? No one knew. Hospitals were checked, morgues, shelters, even fringe communities and cults. Nothing. No trace. Then on October 15th, a new lead emerges. Someone reports seeing a woman resembling Laura early that morning, around 8:30 a.m. She was allegedly spotted near a tram stop, a short distance from Laura's home, between major transit lines. The information is taken seriously and immediately checked, because if that sighting was real, it could change everything. It wasn't her. On October 22nd, Laura Mitchell is officially placed on the National Missing Persons List. A criminal case is open under the charge of murder. While the search continues, investigators begin working through different theories. Theory 1, abduction. Laura's ex-husband strongly believes his version. "I think she was taken," he says. "I don't see any other explanation. She went into the building and never came out." The family watched the surveillance footage again and again. No one could identify Laura among the people who exited the building after she went inside. The logic seemed simple. She entered. She never left. So someone must be holding her. But this theory raises serious questions. First, how do you remove a person from a building covered by cameras? Carry her out in a bag? Wrap her in a carpet? There is nothing suspicious on the footage. Everyone who leaves the building after Laura appears to be ordinary residents, going about their daily routines. Second, motive. If this was a kidnapping for ransom, why were there no demands? Laura's family wasn't wealthy. There was no large sum of money to extort. The abduction theory begins to fall apart. Theory 2, financial trouble and criminal involvement. Laura had recently taken out a loan. After furnishing the new apartment, around $2,000 should still have remained. So where did the money go? Did she fall into debt? Borrow from illegal lenders? Owe someone money urgently? Would that explain why she showed up at her ex-husband's door in the middle of the night, asking for cash? Investigators explore this angle thoroughly. But again, nothing. There is no evidence Laura was threatened. No sign she feared anyone. No messages, no witnesses, no financial red flags. They also examine her work life. Laura worked at a used car dealership, handling insurance policies and loan paperwork. Could she have been drawn into some kind of fraud or illegal scheme? Her colleagues are questioned, her supervisors, even clients. No compromising information is found. Then Laura's sister recalls something. On Friday, October 12th, the two spoke on the phone. Laura mentioned that there were some problems at work. She didn't go into detail. When investigators later questioned the dealership's director and staff, they denied any serious issues. Everything, they said, was business as usual. No conflicts, no scandals, nothing out of the ordinary. There were rumors that Laura's manager had made inappropriate advances toward her. Those rumors were investigated as well. And once again, nothing could be proven. Every theory leads to a dead end. No clear suspect. No clear motive. No clear explanation. Laura Mitchell walked into her building at 3:57 a.m. and vanished. Those rumors turned out to be just that, rumors, unsubstantiated, unsupported by evidence. Theory 3, a religious group, like any large city, Riverton had various religious and spiritual organizations. Could Laura have fallen under the influence of one of them? Police checked known communities and groups. No trace of Laura was found. Theory 4, voluntary disappearance. What if Laura chose to vanish on her own? What if she left to start a new life? Did she have problems? Financial? Personal? Maybe she simply couldn't take it anymore and ran away. But everything argues against this theory. Laura left behind her 12-year-old son. She didn't take her phone. She didn't take her documents. She ran out of the apartment in a light jacket in mid-October at 4 a.m. That doesn't look like a planned escape. Her family categorically rejects this possibility. She would never leave Daniel, her mother insists. Never. Not under any circumstances. Even if Laura had been facing the most serious problems. Theory 5, a tragedy. There were signs Laura had been struggling emotionally. Her son later recalled that his mother had cried often in the days before her disappearance. Investigators also remembered a strange moment. During a phone call, Laura casually asked her ex-husband to look after their son, if something ever happened to her. Months passed. Autumn turned into winter. The active phase of the search ended. The criminal case remained open, but there were no new leads. The investigation stalled. They kept calling me in for questioning. Laura's mother recalls. I asked if there were any suspects, but they never told me anything, just that work was ongoing. Police issued an official statement. Possible locations were being checked. Surveillance footage analyzed. Laura's social circle examined. Medical, religious, and social institutions were reviewed. Areas known for high-risk populations were searched. Nothing. Laura Mitchell seemed to have vanished without a trace. 5 months later, March 21st, 2019, 5 months after Laura disappeared. Over the winter, massive piles of snow had accumulated on the awnings above the building entrances. That morning, maintenance workers began clearing them. By evening, they reached entrance 6, the same entrance where Laura had lived. They started shoveling. One sweep of the shovel, then another. As the snow shifted, the surface underneath became visible, and then a worker struck something solid. They cleared more snow, and beneath it, they saw what no one ever wanted to find. Police were called immediately. Specialists handled what came next. The remains were found wedged in the corner of the awning, between the building wall and a gas pipe. Time and weather had taken their toll. Autumn had been unusually warm. The first freezing temperatures didn't arrive until mid-November. By clothing alone, the person could be identified. The same jacket Laura had been wearing when she entered the building nearly half a year earlier. Official identification required DNA testing, but no one truly doubted it. It was Laura Mitchell. Her mother refused to believe it. "I think it wasn't her," she said. "The body was too changed. We're waiting for the DNA results." In addition, one of Laura's friends called me and said that the body was found wearing a gray-green coat. Laura owned only one coat like that, a short gray one, and that was exactly what she had been wearing when she left the apartment. Despite the doubts, the forensic results confirmed it. It was Laura Mitchell. Additional materials related to this case, including exclusive footage and clips that will never appear on the YouTube channel, are available in a private archive. There is also a free trial. I think you'll figure out what to do. The QR code is on the screen. The link is in the description. Now let's continue, because questions remain. For 5 months, Laura's body lay on the awning above the building entrance, just a few meters away from apartments where people were living. How did no one notice? How was that even possible? The answer lies in the building's design. The entrance is recessed inward. The walls extend outward, blocking the view. From the balconies above, the awning is not visible. Photos taken from the balconies show that the view is obstructed by a gas pipe. Laura's body was lying behind it, right against the wall, tucked into the corner, from inside the stairwell. It's also difficult to see the awning roof unless someone is deliberately trying. The windows there are high up, narrow, and elongated. To look down at the awning, a person would have to open a window and lean out. Who would do that without a reason? And from the street, across from the building, there are no other structures positioned at the right angle to see the awning clearly. In other words, Laura was there the entire time. Hidden in plain sight, the IT turns out the location really was difficult to see. But then the next question arises. Why didn't anyone notice the smell? October had been unusually warm. Temperatures stayed around 15 degrees Celsius, 59 degrees Fahrenheit, or higher. The decomposition process should have started quickly. The distinctive odor should have drawn attention within just a few days. Neighbors later recalled that they thought there had been a smell, but everyone dismissed it, assuming it came from the garbage bins nearby. The third question, why wasn't the body found immediately if police had searched the building? When Laura disappeared, the search began right away. Investigators combed through the building. Basements, attics, dogs were brought in. We've already talked about the volunteers searching the neighborhood. And yet, no one thought to check the awning? No one opened a stairwell window to look down? It seems the inspection was frankly superficial. No one performed a thorough check of every corner. Or perhaps everyone assumed no one could possibly be there, so they simply didn't look. But the dogs didn't pick up a trail either. Either there was a scent, but the handlers never thought to check the awning, or environmental conditions interfered, wind, competing smells, and so on. The fourth question, how did she get there? This is the main question, the one that remains unanswered. No one knows. The access to the building's roof was locked. No signs of forced entry were found. The windows on the stairwells are positioned fairly high, about 1.6 meters, 5 feet 3 inches from the floor. They are narrow, double-paned, and heavy. Laura was about 1.7 meters tall, 5 feet 7 inches. Theoretically, she could have pulled herself up, climbed onto the windowsill, and gotten outside. But that would require strength and, above all, motivation. Could there have been a chair or stool nearby she could have used? No one in the building remembers seeing any furniture on the stairwells. The fifth question, the position of the body. When the workers uncovered the remains, the body was in a position hard to explain by a fall. It was bent in a kind of L shape, as if someone had been sitting back against the wall, legs stretched out, and then collapsed to the side. Normally, a body falling from a height lands some distance from the drop point. But Laura was found pressed up against the wall, in the corner between the gas pipe and the building. Could she have been alive after a fall, crawled instinctively to the wall, and assumed a seated position? Theoretically, yes. But then why did anyone hear the sound of a fall, screams, or groans? The sixth question, cause of death. The autopsy could not determine a precise cause. The body had been too badly altered. Too much time had passed. The warm October weather had accelerated decomposition. In April 2019, Elena Shkiva, senior assistant of the Regional Investigative Department, stated, multiple fractures were found, but whether they occurred before death or post-mortem during the fall is impossible to determine. Attempts at explanations involve specialists from all sorts of fields. In 2021, even contestants from a popular psychic competition were brought to Riverton. That, of course, was nonsense. We won't dwell on their guesses. The fact remains, it happened. The investigation focused on 5 main theories. The first, accidental death. Laura had been in the building on one of the upper floors. Perhaps she wanted to look out the window, get some fresh air after a sleepless night. She climbed onto the windowsill, opened the window, leaned out too far, and slipped. But this theory runs into problems. The windows are narrow, heavy, and hard to open. For an adult to squeeze through them is extremely difficult. And why would Laura need to climb out of a window at 4 a.m. when she could simply go outside the building? Theory 2, a personal decision. Laura had been struggling with depression, financial problems, loans. Her personal life wasn't going well. She had cried a lot in the days leading up to her disappearance. Her son had seen it. That night, she may have reached a breaking point. Perhaps she went up to one of the upper floors and did something unthinkable. This theory could explain a lot, if it weren't for one, but the position of the body, the absence of sound from a fall, the strange landing spot pressed up against the wall. She had also left her 12-year-old son asleep at home. No note, no goodbye. She simply ran out in a light jacket at 4 a.m. and never returned. It doesn't look like a considered decision. Theory 3, a meeting gone wrong. Laura may have arranged to meet someone, perhaps someone she owed money to, or maybe someone else entirely. The meeting took place somewhere near the building, and something went wrong. A conflict, an argument, threats. Laura panicked. She ran back into the building, climbed to the upper floor, tried to hide or escape, looked out the window in a panic, and fell onto the awning below. This theory explains why she rushed out of the apartment and why she seemed to glance around as she returned. But it doesn't explain why she doesn't appear afraid on the footage. No panic, no terror, and nobody is chasing her. Theory 4. Substance use. This version has many supporters. There's speculation that Laura ran out to meet someone for drugs, then returned, climbed to the top floor of the building, and intended to use them there. Her state of mind may have been altered. Perhaps she climbed out the window, thinking she needed fresh air, or lost her coordination entirely, and then she fell. This version explains a hurry, the tension on her face, and her strange behavior, but there is no evidence that Laura had been using any substances. Friends, colleagues, and family members never noticed anything. Theory 5. Murder. Laura was killed, and her body was placed on the awning later, possibly in November or even December when the snow had fallen and the cold set in. This could explain why dogs didn't pick up a scent in October, and why residents didn't notice any odor of decomposition. The killer could have been someone from the building. Laura may have met this person willingly, or not. She was killed in one of the apartments, the body hidden. Once the search frenzy subsided and the cold arrived, the body was moved through a window and placed on an awning. This theory explains many of the strange details. But what was the motive? Why would someone want to kill Laura? Why place the body on an awning, creating unnecessary risks? It would have been much simpler to move her outside the city into a forest. On top of that, moving an adult body through a narrow stairwell window is no easy task. It would require physical strength, an accomplice, and absolute certainty that no one would come out of the building at that moment. Laura's family strongly supported this theory. They could not believe she could have made such a fatal choice herself. They could not believe she could have lain there unnoticed for 5 months. But the investigation found no evidence of foul play, no suspects, no motive. Case closure. By summer 2019, the investigation was suspended due to a lack of suspects or evidence. On January 30th, 2020, the investigative committee issued a final decision. The criminal case was closed due to absence of a crime. The official date of death, October 14th, 2018. 7 years have passed since that night. The case is officially closed. But the questions remain. Where did the 150,000 rubles from her loan go? Why did Laura go to her ex-husband at night to ask for money? Who wiped her phone, deleting all messages from October 6th onward? Where did she run to at 3:45 a.m.? Who did she meet during those 12 minutes? What was the expression on her face when she returned? Who covered the camera in the 7th stairwell? Was it accidental or deliberate? How did Laura end up on the awning? Did she climb out the narrow window herself? Or did someone place her there? Why didn't the dogs pick up a scent, even though they searched the building? Why didn't the police check the awning immediately? Could she really have lain there for 5 months unnoticed? Or was the body placed there later? What really happened to Laura that October night? The investigation maintains there was no foul play. This was a tragedy, caused perhaps by chance and maybe by the emotional state of the woman herself. Her family disagrees. They are certain that something here just doesn't add up. There are too many strange details, too many inconsistencies. Online, people have suggested dozens of theories, from rational explanations to wild conspiracies, from believable ideas to purely fantastical ones. We've covered only the main possibilities. Some say it was an accident, perhaps influenced by substances. Others are convinced it was murder with carefully hidden evidence. Some believe she chose to disappear on her own. Each theory has its arguments, and each has its weak points. The building on Cheremshanskaya Street in Samara still stands. Life goes on. People pass by that same awning, unaware of its story. But the story remains unfinished. Laura entered the stairwell at 3:57 a.m. on October 14th, 2018. What happened next? Only she knows, and perhaps someone else. But that someone is silent. The mystery remains a mystery. What do you think happened? Which theory seems the most plausible to you? Or do you have your own idea that could explain all the strange details of this case? Write your thoughts in the comments. Maybe together we can spot something the investigators missed.